What's going on, y'all? This is Josh from Team SUPERSHOE, and welcome back to another episode of the Shoe Show. We are not talking about Globe shoes. No, we are talking about the one and only shoe of NASCAR, Corey LaJoie, and just anything NASCAR related. I am super pumped to have you guys over for episode number 9. We are going to be talking to our buddy Morgan Bouchet. He is our French friend. He is a big fan of Corey LaJoie, and he is going to share with us the excitement of the Atlanta race and how Corey almost won it, and the French announcers, how they were kind of favoring Corey. So I thought that was kind of cool. We're going to be chatting with Mike and Jeff. We're going to be talking to them about current racing, just mainly the Atlanta race, and then we're going to be talking also about playoffs. Playoffs are going to be coming up, and we're going to be debating whether or not we should be sticking with the old school playoff format, or if we should be revamping the playoff schedule the way it is, the old school, no playoffs at all. We're going to figure that out. We're going to be chatting with our buddy Jimmy Smith. He is going to be telling us about his experience hanging out at Loudon at the modified race, and how Corey finished 6th there. And just going to get to hear his cool story. And we are going to meet our guest of the show. He is the owner of Off Access Paints, Mr. Greg Stumpff. He is going to be hanging out with us, and it's going to be really cool to get to know him. And finally, we're going to get to know Bobby Cansdale. He's been a longtime friend of ours on Team SUPERSHOE. We've chatted a lot, and he's going to be the member of the month, and we're going to get to know him just a little bit. So without further ado, let's bring on our first guest of the show, Mr. Morgan Bouchet.
Ah mais c'est l'engagement, c'est ce qu'il lui faut. Incroyable ce qu'il a fait. Et là il est sur la ligne extérieure, il bloque la ligne extérieure, Corey LaJoie.
Attention, il y a Chattin qui revient derrière, est-ce qu'il va Junior. Et ensuite Corey LaJoie. À l'intérieur il y a Kurt Busch. Excusez du peu pour...
Oh attention, Chattin. Ils sont 3 de fond, on a failli se toucher. Chase Elliott, très agressif sur Martin Truex Junior.
Et on a perdu Truex, On a perdu Truex,
et ils sont touchés à
l'extérieur.
Elliott a été très agressif.
Il reste 3 tours, et regardez, Corey LaJoie qui ne perd pas le nord et qui remonte sur la trajectoire extérieure pour se mettre devant Chase Elliott.
Elliott qui va très vite par l'extérieur. Oh là là.
Il est fort, Elliott, il est fort, parce que LaJoie va prendre le push de Chastain. Le push de Chastain sur Corey LaJoie.
Et Corey LaJoie à l'intérieur. Elliott est en tête.
Et le bloc maintenant de Elliott sur LaJoie. Terrible. Et il reste un tour. Drapeau blanc. On ira au bout. Il n'y aura plus de drapeau jaune.
Oh attention Corey LaJoie. C'est quoi grosse poussette d'Eric Jones. Il est dans le mur.
Oh dommage. Il est dans le mur. Oh dommage. Oh c'est parti en vrille. Et drapeau jaune.
Okay, y'all, we are back, and we're going to be hanging out with our buddy Morgan Bouchet. He is the French fan of Corey LaJoie. He's been a longtime Team SUPERSHOE member, and he has just been a good friend online. So, Morgan, how are you, man?
Good, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming. And I brought you on because you and I talk a lot, not on the page, but at Messenger and everything. And you showed me how excited the French announcers were for Corey LaJoie doing so well at Atlanta. So just kind of wanted you to help tell us what they were saying while I also show that video.
Okay. So my name is Morgan Bouchet. I'm a fan of Corey LaJoie, like we said in French, Corey LaJoie, and since 2017 season, I follow Corey LaJoie since he started with BK Racing, and after with the 72 cars and Go Fast, and now Spire. First time I see the NASCAR race, I look and I don't choose a driver, but after seeing many races, this guy with a French name and the look of his car, always awesome, like a Scooby-Doo car, for example, and now again, always awesome. And it was a guy in the little team, always fighting with all little team, and I like this mentality. It's like David, like against Goliath, and often the little guy could beat the big. And since this time, all the season, I follow Corey LaJoie.
Awesome.
So,
and so
yeah.
how was the Atlanta race?
For Atlanta, it was an awesome memory. It's first time I seen an enthusiasm of the French commentators on TV. Often it's for Elliott, Kyle Busch, big driver, champion. But here, when you see Corey LaJoie lead the race, 19 laps, you feel that the guys say Corey LaJoie lead the race, and after they speak of him to learn of the French fans who don't know, and they explain this story, his long career in little team. Speak of Spire, second season, 2 cars with 7.7, and they like this sensation, this feeling, like I said, David against Goliath. The little team who lead in front of the big team, Elliott, Joe Gibbs cars, and they try to give this good feeling, very good moment for Spire on TV, on a good place. It was a unique situation for this team, and we understand this in French, and I'm sure like you in the United States, very good feelings. It's unique things. Corey could win this first race in NASCAR Cup Series. It's not a little thing. This season, we are many drivers who win the first race in career. Cindric, for example. So we are we know Corey LaJoie now in France. These guys give us many information, and I'm sure in the future Corey LaJoie earn many fans all around the world. And if French fans of NASCAR listen us, follow the SUPERSHOE page on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook. Suivez-nous et abonnez-vous les gars sur YouTube et sur Facebook. And
yeah.
So it was awesome moment for me to listen that. It's a guy. Yeah. I'm a fan of this guy with you since 2 years on Facebook, and it was the first time I seen and I listen speak of Corey LaJoie for another guys like you on a fan page. So it was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it's pretty awesome. And for people that don't know you, Morgan, guys, Morgan is so dedicated. He watches races live in France, and so sometimes that means he's starting his race at 11 o'clock at night or midnight, and he will stay up to watch. And he is there solely to cheer on Corey LaJoie, or if the French announcers say Corey LaJoie. So very cool. You are such a huge and dedicated fan. We're going to have you on in a few more months where we'll really get to know you, Morgan. But this time we just wanted to talk about Atlanta. And other than that, Morgan, how do you say, so I can close this out, how do you say the shoe show in French?
Shoe show in French. It's the two French commentators speaking of shoe show. This nickname, they said it's the nickname of Corey LaJoie, and in French we can translate that by spectacle de la godasse, the shoe show. So SUPERSHOE, it's a super godasse, super chaussure. So,
well, I was going to try to say that, but I just don't think that I will say it as sexy as you did. So
no, it's more sexy in English.
Okay, Morgan. Well, thank you so much for coming out and hanging with us on the shoe show. And Morgan, I appreciate your friendship, and we'll be chatting online.
Thank you, and sorry for my English if I made some error.
No, you're doing good. You're doing good, man. So, all right, Morgan, you take care, buddy.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye.
All right, y'all, we're here chatting with our friends Jeff and Mike. How you guys doing?
What's up, man? How's everybody doing?
Doing good. Mike, how you doing, man? How's the baby?
Same as always, man. Growing. Doing it. She actually started rolling over not long ago. So now we can't leave her unattended as much.
Yep. Life's
cool.
Getting a little more complicated, little by little, eventually start crawling. And so I brought you guys on just to talk about current racing and just topics that are coming up. Obviously going to be airing on August 7th. So what will be talked about then. So from what we have so far, we have Loudon, which wasn't typically a good race for us. And we're mainly going to focus about Atlanta. Atlanta was one hell of a race. You had one of the topics I want to bring up is Chastain's recklessness. And I'm starting to be a little concerned whether or not it's just him being, a rough racer versus just, I don't know. It's starting to make me wonder if it's, if he's really screwing up or if he's meaning to do this. It's just a strange thing. Corey led 19 laps. He kind of dominated the end of the race. It was really cool to see. And Mike, I know you were there to see it in person. And we were all, I've never been so nervous watching a race. I was an old Jimmy Johnson fan, but I was so used to Jimmy winning that I just never, it wasn't as a different feeling pulling for the small guy. So, and Corey's final restart you had where obviously he ended up losing it. I wanted to ask you guys, do you think that it was a bad block, or do you think that it was just hard racing?
I think it was fine. Those guys are, all running for the same thing. And yeah, I mean, Corey was in a new spot for him, and I get where people would say that, but I don't think he would have done anything different if it was anybody else back there, whether it was Chastain or any of his teammates or anybody. I think he raced Corey the same way he would have raced anybody else.
Yeah, I share the same sentiments there. While it was hard to be a Corey LaJoie fan and be in the grandstands and see that kind of move happen at, whenever we were so close to getting the job done. I mean, yeah, that was kind of a bummer, but it's racing, man. White flags in the air and the pay window's open, and you're not going to lay down and let anybody win. It doesn't matter how good of friends you are on or off the racetrack, in my opinion.
Right. Corey ended up admitted his errors, his faults. He ended up saying that he's never been in that spot, and he just was completely blunt, obvious, just honest in his post-race interview. And I'm wondering, what do you guys think? I'm thinking he became more popular. We have grown now on Team SUPERSHOE plus 1,200 people since Sunday, since the Sunday of Atlanta, in 1 week. I think it's over his post-race interview. It's over his going and congratulating Chase. And I feel like he has gained more fans because of losing the race as opposed to winning. I think if he would have won, it would have just been a typical, fan rush. But I think that people truly saw his character. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's always a spot for the underdog in this sport, especially. I mean, every sport, but NASCAR always has their little teams that could and drivers that could and stuff like that. And yeah, he had a great run. He got wrecked. He finished 21st. But the point that I made to some people that I talked to about, they interviewed the winner of the race and then they interviewed him. So he was right there. He was right in the forefront. How he talked, how he handled himself, what he said, how he did it, went to victory lane, all that stuff. He couldn't ask for anything better. And the way that he, like you said, he owned it. And it was one of those things too, where you got the sense from him that he knows he belongs up there and he knows he's going to be back up there again. And it wasn't just like, oh, it's a Daytona race and we got lucky to get shuffled up front. He knows that's where he wants to be and he knows that's where he's going to be. So
that's right. Yeah. I mean, it's just a good run all the way around for those guys. I feel bad for him just in the sense, like you could see the frustration on his face. I mean, no matter how positive he was in that post-race interview, I still feel like you could sense, just the true dejection, I guess, just, so close, almost had it. But either way, he's definitely going to be back up there. I mean, Daytona's coming. And just to parallel to your point from earlier, Josh, you were talking about, Ryan Blaney was like, we got to get him out of here. I think even in that moment, you can have the utmost respect for a guy, like as a friend, as a brother, or whatever. But at the end of the day, Ryan Blaney has been in that situation however many times over and has won, multiple races. Whereas at the end of the day, Corey just hasn't. So I don't know. It's just good that he was up there, and maybe everything will be a little more trustworthy, I guess, the next time. Just falling back on the sense, like, yeah, I mean, he did show us he could do it.
I wanted to talk about the playoffs formats, and that's kind of the main topic I wanted to bring guys on about. And I wanted to give credit where credit is due. A lot of my research was from the YouTube channel. I guess it's Slap Shoes, and we'll put it link it in the description here. But I wanted to talk about the playoffs and how much the NASCAR has changed from just points to playoffs to, all the different playoff formats that we've had. So the playoffs normally determine the best team in kind of like a separate season to prevent the championship going to the team with the most wins or points. They want excitement, right? And when you, I wanted to know, when do you sacrifice fairness for the sport for entertainment? Is it fair to have? It's more fair to have points, but it's a lot more exciting to have something like the playoffs to go to the Super Bowl. So, and then I wonder if it's going to hurt the legitimacy of a championship, and you don't normally hear this from something like the NFL, but you do hear it from NASCAR fans, because NASCAR, we are used to the old school playoffs, and it's a much different ball game. I mean, it's not even a ball game, but it's a much different sport being a NASCAR fan versus being a baseball or NASCAR or hockey. So I wanted to kind of go through the changes. Obviously, the sport was built on a just point system where you had guys kind of winning. They could win races before the season was over. They could finish dead last and they could still win the championship. You eventually, in 2004, had the Nextels advertised chase for the Cup, where the top 10 drivers came out. They were separated with 10 races to go, and they had 5 races differentiating each position. The inaugural playoff champion was Kurt Busch. He won 8 points over Jimmy Johnson, which was at the time the most tight championship run in NASCAR history. Obviously, that's something that was pushed to be that way, right? This is what the chase is about, or the playoffs now is what it's called. And eventually, Jimmy Johnson used this as the regular season as a test almost. They were so good that they tested, what could go good and what could go bad in the playoffs or in the chase for the Cup. And then when they went to the chase, because they would qualify to get a win or two, they would win. And they won from 2006 to 2010, which was almost like making a mockery of the chase. You had 2007. You eventually they made it to where it was the top 12, and instead of the top 10, the last 2 slots were for drivers that weren't in the top 10 who had the most race wins. And I used to believe, I couldn't find the stats on it too. I wanted to kind of look it up, but I couldn't find it. I used to believe back then that the top 12 was made for Dale Jr. to make the playoffs, because he suffered. I mean, he made like the first 1 or 2, but he was very yo-yo. He was up and down. And so 2014, you eventually got to now what we have is the top 16 knockout playoffs, where winning you're in the regular season. And the same as goes with the every 3 races. So if you win in one of the 3 segmented races, you'd move on to the next round, and every round you would lose 4 drivers. It has become much more confusing and strange, and I don't know. It's not about consistency at all anymore. It's legitimately about winning races. And you have the one final race, which is the championship race. So at the second to last race, they finally go from 8 drivers to 4 drivers. Those 4 drivers battle it out at now Phoenix, used to be Homestead. So I wanted to know from you guys, does the playoffs that we have now, or I guess in general, does playoffs in NASCAR, does it delegitimize the championships in NASCAR? Is it something we should be dropping off or just altering?
So, me personally, I don't think there's something, the core of the playoffs that they have now, I don't think there's a problem with. I can understand from NASCAR side of things, like, you have those years in the old days where guys are, 5-6 races to go, and they already got the championship clinched, and they're just there, and you really don't have any extra interest in watching. And with this situation, every round you got, okay, this is an elimination and a cutoff race. But that being said, the one thing I don't think I like about it, and I don't think I've liked it since they did it, is just the one race. It's basically a one race winner take all for the championship is what it kind of comes down to. Is, as long as you can get yourself in those final four, all you have to do is beat 3 other guys, and you can win a championship. Not that it's easy to get there. So that's, that's the obvious part. But for the most part, I think, like you said, you got to kind of look at where the entertainment value comes in. And I just don't think you can have 5 races, 6 races, 4 races at the end of the year with no meaning to it. So I understand why they did it, but I don't have the answer. I just wish there was something better to actually get that championship than just, well, luckily most of the guys that have won the championship have won that race in Homestead or Phoenix. So that kind of makes it okay. But, in theory, you could finish 15th at Phoenix and win the championship. So.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of with you on that point as well. So if the season is 36 races long and you go through 35 races and all these eliminations and whatever else, wasn't that kind of a bummer though? Like you come down to the last race and it's like, man, I had a simple flat tire and I finished a lap down. I was 18th. Well, you lost the whole championship.
Exactly.
All because of, So I don't know. And to Josh's point, the different points, formats and, through time, whatever. I see where people's debate are or where they stand as far as, well, under the Winston Cup format, this guy wouldn't have won as many championships or da-da-da-da-da. I guess at the end of the day, it really shouldn't matter, right? Like the Winston Cup format is what it was. Well, now this is the format we got. They won their championship under their rules, and it kind of is what it is. But I do give my buddy Josh over here, I give him a lot of trouble all the time. I'm like, Jimmy Johnson wouldn't have won 7 championships, under the old format like Jeff Gordon would have.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a minute. So what do you guys, if you were texting the owner of NASCAR and said, listen, man, we got to drop this, what would we change? Would we keep it the way it is? Or we go back to the old the original playoff system, or just the original points in general and forget playoffs? How would you guys run NASCAR?
I think you got to have a playoff. Like you got to have a bracket or a list or something to get, something exciting. I don't know. Like I said, like Michael said, you get a flat tire at Phoenix, your whole season where, look at Kyle Larson last year. If Kyle Larson won 10 races last year, he gets a flat tire at Phoenix and finishes 18th, he loses the title. Is he the champion? Yeah, absolutely. He's the champion, but now he doesn't have the trophy because he finished 18th. I don't know if you go to a playoff format in the last 4 races, you do like a points thing or whatever, but I think you gotta reward that consistency throughout the year. And I think you also do have to reward people that win races and get into the championship. So it's one of those things where you're really close to being there, but I don't know what that final piece is to get it right.
Yeah, same here. Like I hate to complain about something and not be able to offer a solution to it. You know what I mean? I don't know what the answer is, but I don't really care for the whole last race winner take all deal. I think that's just about as silly as being like, okay, we've narrowed it down to you 4 guys. We're going to pick this random track. We're going to show up in 30 days and like 2 of you are going to go this direction and you other 2 go the other direction. Whichever one makes it, you are the champion. So I don't know. I don't know what the fix is. I like the idea of, the playoff, the elimination in some form, whatever, but just that whole last race is a dagger.
Yeah. All right. Well, I agree. I liked the playoffs. I do enjoy the playoffs, but I like the original playoffs. It's way too complicated now. And I recently met a coworker that I've actually kind of turned him on to NASCAR and kind of pushing towards Corey LaJoie, but just in general, I've just opened him up to the world of auto racing. And I've tried to explain to him the playoffs, and it's just and points and all that stuff, and it's just too complicated. I mean, if it's too complicated for me that I've been watching NASCAR since I've been born, it's too complicated. So, so I actually dialed up my dad, who is I grew up a big football fan, and he is born and raised and still a big football fan, a Packers fan from Wisconsin. And I remember talking about playoffs. I remember talking to him years ago about playoffs in the NFL. And, that's what it seems like the big wigs of NASCAR is trying to push. They think that we are the same as football or anything else with that, with that, fourth quarter exciting finish. And I remember talking to him, and he's a Packer fan, and he used to tell me about how, they don't credit the Packers anymore for the championships that back in the day. And I called him today to make sure I had all these stats right. So back in the day, the NFL was established in the 1920s. For 14 years, they gave the championships just to the best record of the end of the season. So you 14-2 or 12-2, whatever you won 12 games and you lost 2, and nobody else came close to that. You are the champion. And there was the Packers, the Bears, the Redskins. There was a few other teams. There's teams that aren't even around anymore that were credited with, hey, you are the champions of the NFL. Then in 1933, which would be 33-ish years later, you had a championship game where they had the top 2 seeds play each other. And it wasn't the Super Bowl. It was the NFC, AFC championship game or something like that. And then fast forward to 1967. So that is a hell of a long time from 1920. That is when the Super Bowl started. And now if you ever look up any stats, it is the greatest of all time is how many Super Bowl wins that they have. Has nothing to do with the championships prior to that. And I just find that interesting, we have the playoff system of, I guess it's been 20 or so years since we've had playoffs in NASCAR. And it's just an interesting thought, not that I'm a big football buff, but it's the theory behind it. The NFL doesn't give credit where it's due anymore to people before the Super Bowl time. So the final thing I wanted to bring up, beyondtheflag.com, you have they did all the research for me, so thank you guys. And they narrowed down all the drivers, and I think this is probably a 4-year-old website article that I read, but there's an interesting article I brought up, and what Mike alluded to earlier with his Jimmy Johnson hatred. It is that Jeff Gordon would have won the championship in the old points race, in the old points style, 2004, 2007, and 2014. You would have had Carl Edwards would have won it in 08 and 11. And Harvick would have won it in 2010, 2015, and 2016. Completely different results. Those are people that didn't win it that year. And that's interesting because Jimmy would have never been a 7-time champion. Instead, Jeff Gordon would have been in the old points only, no playoff system. And he would be, tying Earnhardt and Petty. Yeah. You also had that Kurt and Kyle would have combined to win 0 championships at that time. Again, this is 4 years ago. And you would have Tony and Carl Edwards. They would have both been 2-time champions. And how different the NASCAR spectrum would be right now. And obviously changing everybody's fate, right? I can't imagine how much money and how much fame and success all these guys, and think about Carl Edwards, right? How he retired really early, and he was a successful competitive driver, and he retired, and he's not a social media guy. He just kind of dropped off the face of the earth. But there's been theories of that he left NASCAR heartbroken, and it's just you even look at the way that he lost the championship to Tony Stewart in the playoff format, where he dominated the whole season, and then Tony was horrible the whole season, and then Tony won 5 of the last 10 races during the playoffs or the chase. I can't remember if that what it was called then. And he, Carl Edwards' year was nothing. They tied, and Tony won because he had one more win over him. So
I was gonna bring that up because Flores talked about that on Stacking Pennies, I think a couple weeks ago, where he was working on that team and they didn't really have much business being there, and they got in and they ripped off 5 out of the 10 races, and like to your point, now he's a champion, and Carl Edwards isn't. And that means, like you said, does that mean Carl Edwards left because of that, or if Carl Edwards wins that title, is he still racing? So it's very, very touchy and interesting subject for sure.
Feel bad for old cousin Carl, man. It was always neat seeing him, drive 500 miles and then still get out and do acrobatic, acts, if you will, backflips, whatever, and just, I don't know. He was a cool personality. He almost kind of reminds me of almost kind of like a Clint Boyer, I guess. Just in the sense, just good time, make you laugh, kind of, whatever. He was an all right guy. Just does kind of suck. He would have been a champion, like you said.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, guys, like I feel like at some point enough time is going to come to pass. You won't hear any talk of, well, this guy won it under the Winston Cup. And at some point, I mean, unfortunately, you ain't really going to hear much about Dale Earnhardt and, Jeff Gordon and some of those guys that, we grew up with, whatever. At some point, this will be all the history of NASCAR that really anybody cares about is the format that we're in now, or, whatever presented going forward. So at the end of the day, I'm a fan of the sport. I'm probably going to watch regardless. Do I feel like there's room for improvement? Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting conversation, and we will never get over this conversation. There are always, as much as I hate it, there will always be an asterisk next to any NASCAR driver's name that wins, like especially Jimmy Johnson. But anybody that wins, it is definitely not the way that the original how NASCAR was brought up, and they're not. Everybody has their different era. Richard Petty has his own era. Dale Earnhardt has his own era. Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon. We all have, they all have their different stories. But at the end of the day, these guys, they all are playing by the same rules. So as much as I'm not a huge supporter of the chase that we have now, or I guess the playoffs we have now, they're all playing by the same game. They're all playing the same rules. And, that's just the way it is. It's all about TV ratings and excitement. And I get it. I love excitement and drama, and I'm a sucker just like anybody else. So, I would rather the race be determined at the last race as opposed to 2 to 3 races to go where, I feel like I have nothing to watch for. However, at the same point, the way it is now, the season feels like it's pointless besides getting into the top 16. And, you make your own determination of whether or not 16 drivers truly should be in the hunt for a championship, if that's truly what we're narrowing the playoff field to. So I don't know.
So my question would be for like the NASCAR is, so the current format that they have, what the thing they promote is win and you're in. So if this situation ends up happening, like it looks like it might, where you got 16, 17 winners and one of those guys don't get in, how do you explain that to a fringe fan who doesn't, follow it like we do or our friends do? Like for example, if Corey won last week and he didn't make the playoffs, how do you explain to Shoe Nation that Corey's not going to be in the playoffs because he's not high enough in points or whatever, but he won. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Whatever it is, I just feel like we got to find a format and stick to it. Like this, changing rules every 2 or 3 years. Oh, well, now it's this bracket style, or we're letting this many guys compete after now Daytona the last regular season race, whatever, Richmond back in the day, I guess. But I don't know. I just got to find something, got to stick with it. I mean, because to your point, I mean, you can't bring new fans into the sport where it takes, a couple of months worth of races to get somebody to like sit down and really watch it and understand it. And it's like, okay, now you're starting to get it. And it's, last race of the year is over. We're starting the Daytona 500. Now there's new rules. It's like, well, how do you, I don't know. I'm a seasoned veteran of watching the sport, and I still struggle keeping up with it.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jeff and Mike, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Before I jump off, do you guys have anything else to say before we head on to next segment?
No, I think we're all good.
Awesome. All right. Yes, sir. Well, we appreciate you guys coming on as always. We have our next guest of the show, Jimmy Smith. He was at Loudon to see the modified race where Corey finished 6th. So we'll get to talk to him and get his input on what it was like to experience that. So y'all stay tuned for Jimmy Smith. All right, y'all, we're here and we are hanging out with our buddy Jimmy Smith. Jimmy, how are you, man?
I'm great. How you guys today?
Very good. Thanks for coming to hang out with us on the Shoe Show and supporting the page and supporting Corey. And just wanted to get to know you. So if you want to let everybody know who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
My name is Jimmy Smith. I'm from Norwalk, Connecticut. I grew up with Randy LaJoie. Our dads raced together at Danbury. That's how I got to know Corey, as soon as he was born. And when he wants to take the motorhome to places that aren't that far, which I contradicted myself already. But Loudon, New Hampshire was the first time he got to bring his family. And he asked me, I've been going for the last 5 years with his motorhome to Bristol and Darlington. But now he's wanting it with the new baby. He's wanting to get his family more involved. So I drove it up to Loudon and got to experience the mighty modifieds of the Northeast with him. But that's a quick bio on myself. But I've known the LaJoie family my whole life.
Nice. And so is it your motorhome or is it the LaJoies and you just come out and hang out and drive? Or
it started out as his grandfather's motorhome. He wanted to give it to Corey, and I don't want to throw Corey under the bus, but Corey didn't want to pay the taxes on it. So Big Ran and Lisa inherited the motorhome. But it's Corey's to use whenever he wants to bring to the races. And that's where I come in. When he needs a driver, I don't have a lot going on. He hits me up and we go racing.
Nice. Cool. Well, we saw that his whole family was out at Loudon. It was really cool to see Don and Randy out there. Is that you think that it means a little bit more when he goes out there on the weekends with them there?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it's funny. Yesterday at lunch, my wife asked him that question, how he enjoyed having the family and the motorhome there. And he said he never realized before, in between practices or something, he'd just go up in the front of the lounge, the hauler, and just get on his phone and look at Twitter, look at stacking pennies, whatever you do in a downtime, where he really enjoyed being able to hang out with Levi and his wife and just hang out, get away from racing for a little bit, because there is a lot of downtime in between these practices nowadays. And so he really loved it. And I was glad to be part of it.
You think he's going to be signing up for more modified races since he's started this year at least?
Well, as good as it went, and he had such a good time, he wants to do more. And Rob Fuller, who owned the car, well, Rob Fuller did not own the car. Rob Fuller built it. The Davinis own the car. I hope I said that name right. But he said at the end of the day, he said he wants to do it again because he had an easy top 3 car. Ended up 9th or whatever it was because he backed it down on the 4th corner of the last lap, so he didn't get involved in the wreck. But he definitely wants to, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to watch. So I might have to keep
He was wheeling it. It was fun to watch for sure.
Yeah. So was it his idea to tribute the car to Don LaJoie?
It really wasn't a Don LaJoie tribute car. What's funny is Rob Fuller's dad used to race in the Northeast at Riverside Park and Stafford and stuff like that. And the number, font, and color and all that is actually Rob Fuller's dad's. but it also coincides with what Don LaJoie had. So it was pretty cool how it all came together.
Nice.
All right. Jimmy, just want to tell you thanks for joining us. My name is Michael, by the way. It's good to meet you, sir.
Nice meeting you.
About good old Loudon, New Hampshire. So it's home to some fairly unique style corners, if you will. Not a lot of banking, predominantly a flat track. Do you enjoy the racing there? And what series would you say you have enjoyed seeing there the most throughout your time?
Yes, I do enjoy the racing at Loudon, and I've been going there since they first opened in 1990. And I raced go-karts on the road course there when I was a kid against Corey's dad. But yes, like to get back to your question about the flat corners and all that, I really enjoyed the Cup race on Sunday with them shifting in a new car. Corey wasn't good in his first run, but like the lap before he wrecked, I was down in turns 3 and 4 with his son Levi, and they had that car dialed in, and it was fun to watch him. I know it was a lot of back markers he was passing, but he was flying. But I really like the Cup cars nowadays. A lot of people don't, but I do.
That's right. Yes, sir. So you kind of alleviated to this earlier on in the conversation, but so Corey, he ran as high as, I believe, 4th place in that modified race, and he started and coincidentally enough finished 9th. Some trouble on the last stop. Can you maybe talk about some of the things in between? Maybe I don't know if you were able to listen to the radio or if they had any kind of communications. What did he say about the performance of that car that night?
If you don't mind, I'll give you a complete rundown how the whole thing went from first laps on the track.
I'm all ears.
So it'd been a while since Corey raced a modified, and and to big track like Loudon, he was expecting, just get up to speed and feel it all out. It was a brand new car. Every part on the car was brand new. Corey rolls out, and on his 11th lap, he went to P2 in practice and knew there was even more there. And that was pretty impressive. I was, with a new car, sometimes you have new car blues, something's leaking or something's not right, but the car was dialed in right off the bat. So they were really hoping to qualify good, but when they went out to qualify, they ended up qualifying. It was P8 that he qualified.
Okay.
And it was just a little loose in qualifying because of the full load of fuel they were running. So they thought they really have a good car in the race once they started burning that fuel. And it did come to fruition. On lap 82, he ran his fastest lap of the race. And then caution came out not long after that, lap 90 something. And they figured they'd come in and get the 4 tires. Or 2 tires, I'm sorry. But anyways, come down pit road, running 3rd. And the guy pitted in front of him. I don't know who it is, so I can't throw him under the bus because I probably would. But he ran over to Jackman. And the Jackman ended up on Corey's right front tire. And I thought the stop was done right then, where it pretty much was. But he went on with his job. He got up and jacked the right side up. They had problems changing because they had being a new car and a new team, the pit guns they had didn't have very long sockets on them. So the guys with those wide modified rims, the guys had their hands clearly inside changing these things. So bottom line is they had a problem with pit stops, lug nuts falling off and all that. So he went in 13th, came out 13th, went in 3rd. After that, the car wasn't as good. It tightened up a little bit, but still, I think I was watching a replay of the race. I think he was running 6th coming off the last corner before that wreck happened. And like I said, he backed it way down. He didn't want to tear it up. If he'd Days of Thundered it, gassed it up, who knows? Because the guy that won Nocella, Anthony Nocella, we ran with him for the first half of the race and we're as good. So, it's still, they were still happy with a 9th, but it was a legit top 3 car.
It was good to see him run that good that night. As a fan, I was a little nervous to see how he would do in it just because he hadn't been in a modified in so long. And I think it just goes to show his nickname's there for a reason. That guy really is a super shoe. It seems like with anything that he climbs aboard. So, well,
the first time he ever ran a modified was down in Atlanta on the quarter mile, which is like a bull ring, like Bowman Gray. And he was driving the Hill Brothers car and he won that race. But he'd run a family-owned modified around here, Caraway, and a couple other places. So he's been in a modified before, but he was still feeling the high from the week before at Atlanta. he really wanted to go and he did his homework. I was talking to him before we left for Loudon. I said, dude, it'd be cool to go up and win that modified race. He goes, I'm going home and study tapes to see when to make the pass. So like, it wasn't just, let's go have fun. He wanted to win.
You think that you think that the modifieds and him, if he were to start running it more often, would it translate to the Cup series, or are they totally different?
No, because of the size of the tires. And I even asked him when he came in after the last practice session, I had Levi with me, and I said, dude, he says, these are so much fun to drive. And I said, this car or an Indy car? He says, this. I like this because, he watches F1 all the time. He's a big F1 fan. But I figured, he say F1, but he says, it's just a blast. The cars are so light that's where the comparison doesn't cross over to the Cup cars. They're so light and with that big tire, but you really, you got to have a sack on you to just drive it in there. And he wasn't giving his front bumper no mercy. Anybody that was in front of him, he was bump drafting. It was cool to watch.
It's good to see. Yeah, the modified race was definitely the highlight of the weekend for anybody that was a Corey LaJoie fan.
Correct.
The Cup race certainly wasn't anything to brag about. But how would you see the remainder of Corey's year going? Are there any tracks in particular that maybe you were excited for personally?
Well, Martinsville again. He's always a contender at Martinsville, so I got to say that right off the bat, And I think the program has really come a long ways in the last couple of weeks. If they could just get all the pieces of this new car to stay together for them, I would say I really look for them to do good things, top 15, top 18, everywhere except for the road courses. But you don't never know how that falls because he'll tell you, and he is a good road course racer. He goes up to GoPro here in Mooresville on his go-kart, and he weighs 200 pounds. And I've had my son, people that weigh 150 can't keep up with him, and weight's a big detriment. But he doesn't give himself enough credit, but you never know what could happen at a road course. But anyways, to answer your question, I'd go with Martinsville.
I think I might be a little biased just because me and Josh will be there in person again this year. We're looking forward to the night race in Daytona next month.
There's one, and I hope to be there with the motorhome. Now that we have to circle that one on the calendar.
There you go. Yeah, that'll be awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I hope we see that number 7 car running up front all night long. There's no doubt. Yeah. So, well, Josh, if you want to close this out, sir.
All right. Well, Jimmy, man, thank you for spending a couple of minutes on the Shoe Show. And it was good to get to know you and hear your experience. Not everybody gets to go and hang out in the pits and watch Corey LaJoie wheel modified around. And
it was. So. I'm sorry, guys, forgetting about that Daytona race. Seeing how it's not on the 4th of July anymore, I forget what the schedule is like. But the speedways, you always got to count them in. But I mean, after what he did it. Atlanta is a smaller speedway, but for sure, Martinsville too. I want to put on there.
Yeah, you'll have to let us know if you're out in Daytona. We'll have to get a beer or something. So
10-4 sounds good.
All right, Jimmy. Well, thank you, man.
All right, thank you. Stacking them deep, selling them cheap.
That's right. All right, y'all, we are back and we're hanging out with the Van Gogh of auto racing, the Salvador Dali of killer headwear, Greg Stumpff, the owner of Off Access Paints. Greg, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. I've never been called the Salvador Dali of helmet paint, but I'll take it, man. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming and hanging out with us on the Shoe Show. Us little guys following our little driver. So we wanted to know who you are, where you're from, and how did you become the artist that you are now owning Off Access Paints?
Yeah, so like the condensed version is I'm from Missouri originally, grew up around racing, just loved it. Like my racing was, all through my childhood, racing motocross, started working for a dirt late model team out of high school. And then just had like a really cool high school art teacher that also kind of taught me how to do the airbrush and, not just helmets, but, an array of other things. Right. So one day I'm at a racetrack and somebody asked me to paint a helmet for him on the side. And I went home during that week, painted the helmet, brought it back to the track in the weekend. and made a couple extra side bucks. And it was just a small hobby, something cool to do, something to, be a part of that race team and make somebody look cool. And, ended up meeting a couple other guys, packing everything into a U-Haul trailer and moving halfway across the country to North Carolina. And actually it's funny being on the show. Corey was one of the first guys I really met when I moved here. So that was 10 years ago, and I've been painting his helmets ever since. So just having a good group of guys once I got here to kind of, hang out with, to introduce me to other people, and of course, let me paint their helmets. So I started a tiny little storage unit, and, Corey's bringing his helmets over there, and it wasn't quite the craziness we have now, but it just snowballed from this little hobby into a full-blown career. And I tell people I don't have a real job. I get to paint helmets every day.
That's awesome. So you've been doing how long now?
Since I was 14, and I'm 35 now. So pretty much my entire life, this is what I've been doing. I just didn't call it a career until probably 10 years ago when I moved here and really got serious and had to kind of figure out, hey, are you going to college, or are you gonna, do this little hobby? Which my parents definitely called it a hobby when I first started out, and I don't blame them. But now we have, I think, 40 NASCAR drivers and Supercross and NHRA monster truck guys. Anyone that goes fast in the world, we pretty much paint a helmet in that division, or, for some of the top athletes in the world. So it's been a crazy adventure, and it's definitely not over anytime soon.
And you said, I know you used to talk about motocross and all the different things that you've been working with. How far out has your venture gone? Are you out in F1 yet, or how's the career going there?
Not quite F1. I have a couple buddies like Chad Reed and James Smalls. The Australian guys they're really pushing me to Ricardo, and I think that would be really cool. But honestly, I like being in Mooresville. That's where our shop is now. I like when drivers come in and we get to sit down, for lunch or whatever. Corey comes up with a crazy stack and pennies idea, and you get to make that come to life for one of your friends. Like, that's my biggest thing, is the personality that goes into the helmets. So if I was doing like F1, I don't think it would be as cool, just because, you're painting for those guys. You're going through emails, and you're not really getting that personal, touch with it all. And you're not seeing like the outcome of them opening the box and really being like, oh, wow, this is my idea come to life. Whereas in Mooresville, literally they come into the shop and you hand them the helmet, and you get that gratification. And, and then when your guys go on to win and you've seen it in victory lane, it's honestly the coolest thing ever. So yeah, it would be cool to do F1, but it's definitely not like a bucket list check item for me.
Do you have any favorite helmet designs that you guys have come up with?
I always get asked this, and I don't know. It's a hard question. Obviously, I love Corey's. Corey always has cool ideas, whether it's like the Mount Rushmore that we just did, or the whole penny helmet. He has very out of the box ideas, and it's really cool. Sometimes it's really complicated sometimes because the ideas he has don't translate to paint, but we end up finding a way to make us both kind of happy on the compromise. So I think it's more projects like that. I think like Justin Allgaier, we do a helmet with his daughter every year, which I hope that, when Corey's kids get old enough that they can kind of do the same thing. So like Justin's daughter comes in for the playoffs every year and helps me paint a helmet for him, doesn't know what it's going to look like. And then right before the playoffs, he gets this cool helmet designed by his daughter, and we video it all. And it's just like the coolest project ever. So I think instead of just having like the coolest design I've ever done, is like the whole project as a whole, the meaning behind it, and knowing that helmet's not going to just go on a shelf someday. It's going to or not just on a shelf with no story. Like, it's going to be on the mantle and be like, oh, this is the helmet I won the championship that, my kid helped design, or whatever the story is behind it. I think that's one of the coolest things about my job.
Nice. And you said that you've had one of your longest partnerships with a race car driver is Corey LaJoie. How did that all come out to be, and how's that gone?
So his co-host on Stacking Pennies is Ryan Flores, who, claims to work hard at the track, but really flies in, flies out one day. He doesn't even stay the night. And then he just puts on one lug. It's not even that hard of a job now. It's not even, 5. It's just one. I'm honestly positive I can do that in the amount of time.
Yeah.
And I hope he watches this. So, yeah, Ryan was my good friend. I think we just painted a helmet for him for like his indoor deal before I even moved to North Carolina. So when I moved here, they were still kind of doing the filled fillers deal. If everyone is a big Corey LaJoie fan, you know, the filled fillers back in the day at the shop, and they had a little Bible study, and I started going to that and met Corey through that, just hanging out at the seat shop like everyone else. So he had another helmet painter at the time and saw my stuff. And I think, again, really like the idea of coming to the shop, being personal, having something to do with that instead of just, you know, sending a text to a guy and seeing what he comes up with. I think that is the coolest part about our shop is you can come in and kind of help with the process. So, yeah, I think that was like 9 or 10 years ago. And it's been cool just not only to watch the helmets, but just watch his, you know, Corey's career progress all the way to Atlanta a couple weeks ago, almost winning the race. So that is one of the coolest parts, like I said, is, and not just the artwork, is seeing your friends succeed with your helmet on.
Sweet. So Greg, I just wanted to tell you, thank you so much for joining us. This is it's quite a treat for us. This is neat. So if you could maybe take us through the design process, kind of in a nutshell, if you will, just maybe from the time that a client comes to you and presents an idea through the time when it's done and he's using it.
Yeah. I mean, if this is a real treat, you guys must be running out of celebrities to bring on here, right? Really, it's just like, it starts out with an idea, like I said, like Corey, you know, like the stack and pennies one it's really cool. And if no one's seen it, I'll send some pictures. It's just this cool chrome penny looking helmet, and Corey wanted it embossed and all cool, and I didn't really know how to do that, so we just kind of started with a couple samples, you know, doing a few little things on like the replica helmets, showing Corey, hey, this is what I kind of came up with. And then, you know, Corey has all these ideas. Like I said, he's a fabricator at heart. So this is, you know, nothing out of the realm for him. So, you know, we tweaked it, had a cool rendering going. You always show it to the sponsor, obviously, like Built Bar or anybody else that's going to be involved in it. Usually they're on board. The helmet is a cool thing. So that usually they don't have too many notes and kind of let us do our thing. But Corey's kind of the middle of the road. He lets us do what we do. He trusts us, but, you know, obviously he wants to be a part of the process. Some of the other drivers, you know, sometimes you just work with a PR person and you never really deal with the driver. They'll just send us over the car rendering and the logos and say, okay, kind of match the car, and we'll send it over. And then you guys, you know, you have guys that literally come in and want to help sand the helmet and touch the paint gun and spray the base coat themselves. So it really just kind of depends. It really kind of keeps you on your toes. It's a wide spectrum of people we work with, and they all have different personalities. So there's not really like a cookie cutter way we do it. And I have multiple guys in my shop as well. You know, there's 5 of us. You know, a lot of guys have been with me since the beginning. So, you know, once they kind of, it's like a lot like a tattoo shop, I guess, as what I tell people. Like, I have guys that are really good at doing portraits. I have guys that are good at doing the neon stuff, guys that are just, you know, straight lines for the, you know, Indy Euro style car, you know? So, once they kind of get like a relationship with the driver, they come into the shop and go right past my desk, you know, straight to Noel or Mike or Ryan. And, that's their guy when they want a helmet painted. So, our shop is super unique that way. And that way we have, you know, we can handle whatever request we get. So really there's, like I said, no cookie cutter way. It's all kind of different. Just depends on what driver you're kind of dealing with that day.
So you had kind of touched on this earlier with Josh there. We were going to ask you about, you know, seeing some of your designs on TV, you know, maybe if a driver wins and the, you know, the feeling of satisfaction that it brings. Could you maybe tell us who was the first person that won with one of your designs, or maybe one that comes to mind right now?
I don't know. I can't remember the first. The first Cup driver was David Reagan at Talladega, and I can't remember what year that was, but it was like one of the coolest things. He's running for an underdog team, and to back up a little bit, I get, you know, JJ Yaley was my first Cup guy ever, and that was when I was back in Missouri. He was running like a start and park team, but I was so pumped just to know that I had a helmet on the track, you know, with the big guys in the Cup series. So to go and like go to Talladega, underfunded, small team, wins Talladega, he gets out with your helmet on. That was like the coolest feeling for me, is like, oh wow, one of our helmets just won a race, like a cup race. And I never thought that was possible. So, and then a couple years after that, Martin Truex goes on and wins a championship in probably the coolest way ever, with Sherry and that whole story. And we did a special helmet for Homestead that year. I gave it to him on a Friday night before the race, and then Sunday goes out and wins, the coolest championship ever. So to see him get out of the car with the helmet on and know that you're just a little piece of that is a really cool feeling. And like I said, all these guys are our friends. So, when they succeed, we succeed. So I think when Corey wins that first cup race, which, I thought he was going to do a few weeks ago, you can definitely, my guys know that I probably won't be at work the next day. I'll probably still be hungover at 7 a.m. So it's just a day I know is going to come, but you're just kind of patiently waiting for it.
For sure. So we've seen the off-axis logo, obviously, on a ton of helmets and different designs with that. But, so we've done a little research and seen that you've kind of been like an associate sponsor, if you will, on different cars through different series. Could you maybe tell us, how that came to fruition? What made you want to be on the car versus just on a helmet?
Honestly, that's not me writing big checks or anything. That comes from friendships that I've made through the sport, and them saying, hey, I have this thing open. Do you mind us throwing your logo on it? That's just as humble as I can be, to be like, man, I have the coolest friends in the world that want to jump on. And we do try to sponsor a couple of younger kids. I think having younger kids in race cars and being on the track and looking good. And, I think it's the coolest thing ever when you give an 8-year-old a helmet, just like a cup driver, and they feel like they're big time, So, the younger stuff, I'm all for. I think it's cool just to go out to the summer shootout or just kind of be back at your roots, or any dirt track, honestly, and just see how these kids start out and, want to be a part of that and want to be a part of someone's career as they, go through the ranks.
So, Greg, you explained earlier on the, talking about Corey coming in with the stacking pennies idea and just kind of venturing off of that. Was it the same experience with the Mount Rushmore idea? Was that you guys, or was that Corey? Like, how did that play out with Corey LaJoie's now year-old Mount Rushmore helmet that we all love?
No, that was all Corey, man. Like I said, he's he's an artist and a designer at heart, and he comes up with all these cool ideas. And Noel McEwen, that works in my shop, we actually went to high school together, so we've been working together for 20 some years, and he's the one. I live under his shadow, man, because he makes all those portraits and everything else come to life. So, when Corey has an idea like that, I instantly give it to Noel, and he knocks it out of the park. But now that Corey's a dad and has his podcast and everything else, we don't talk daily, but it'll be like a week goes by, and then he'll randomly shoot me a text, and it'll be some crazy idea, and it's my job to kind of try to figure out how to make that idea come to life on a bowling ball, basically. And it's not always the easiest, but always worth the time that we put into it, because I don't know, they always get a lot of recognition, and I feel like Corey's fan base just loves seeing that kind of stuff. So it's cool to be painting for him, for sure.
That's awesome. Well, so I can't thank you enough, man, for just coming on and kind of hanging out with us and telling us a little bit about your job and kind of what you bring and contribute to the sport. I appreciate the designs, in particular, the stacking pennies, the copper plated helmet is off the chain to me. You guys knocked that one out of the park. Either way, just can't thank you enough for being on. I hope that we can get you on at a later date. Maybe, who knows, over the off season or something, maybe you can come on and tell us about the new helmet for 2023.
Yeah, man. We got one more in the pipeline for this year, and it should be pretty crazy. We're still testing out some stuff. We're hoping to have it done for Road America, just for the 4th of July weekend, because Corey's so American. But we're not quite there on it yet. So I would say everyone give Off Axis Paint a follow on Instagram. We do a lot of live videos, just kind of showing the whole process. If anyone wants to see the shop, it's always a good place to check out all of our latest work. And if drivers stop in or anything, we usually try to get on there with them. So, but Corey's one of the nicest guys in the world, so he's easy to work for. Looking forward to his kickball deal coming up in a few months, or not even a few months. But we got the trophy and everything to do for that. So I think it's going to be really cool stuff. And Corey we always do a go-kart race for the Off-Axis 500, and Corey always builds our trophies. So like I said, he's a fabricator, a designer at heart, and he makes the coolest things in the world. So if anybody has ever seen those, go check out his trophies, because they're definitely works of art.
Awesome.
Yeah. Go ahead and close us out, Josh.
All right. Well, Greg, thanks for hanging out with us, man. I know your time is valuable, and it was just cool to get to know you and to hear your stories, and to see how you guys have come up with these crazy designs. We all love to see on TV. So just thank you so much for supporting our page, and until next time, man, take care.
Yeah, absolutely. If you ever guys, find yourself in North Carolina, stop in, and you're more than welcome to sand helmets or grab a paint gun and see what you got.
3, 2, 1.
All right, Greg, we appreciate you hanging out with us on the Shoe Show. It's truly an honor to get to meet somebody like you, man. You are living the dream, and super cool to get to hear your stories. Up next, we have Member of the Month, Mr. Bobby Cansdale. He is a longtime shoe fan, and he's had a lot of conversations with us on Team SUPERSHOE on Facebook. So without further ado, check out Member of the Month, Bobby Cansdale.
Hello everyone, my name is Bobby Cansdale. Most of you probably know me from around the track or hanging out on Facebook. Josh and Mike had requested that I make a video for y'all so you can get an insight into my life as a NASCAR fan, as a Corey LaJoie fan, and all things racing. First, I'll start out by telling you guys about myself. I was born and raised in New York, lived in New York till I was 21, moved to Tennessee 2011. After that, me and my wife just moved to Florida earlier this year, and have started a new life down here, and we just like getting out, going. Last year we did, I think, 12 cup races, not counting the Xfinity truck and all the other races we went to. But I've been a hardcore NASCAR fan since '98, just before, or when Dale Earnhardt won the 500 actually. Was an Earnhardt fan up until he passed away. Then, like most Earnhardt fans, became a Junior fan. After Junior retired, I was searching for a driver. And then, of course, Chase Elliott came along, and I met him at a local Napa, become a fan. He was a cool kid. And then I've always been a big fan of lower level drivers that people usually put on the back burner. I just wanted somebody that to cheer for, the underdog. And so I come across Corey probably 2 years ago at Bristol. He had his famed 32 car up there, and me and my wife got to see it, and I watched some YouTube videos, and so followed him, and I loved his personality. Great guy to be around, so I started following him and got hooked. And then last year, I think I come across this page, and it's taken off since. Josh and Mike done a wonderful job. And that being said, I'm a big collector. Of course, you can see some of the pieces on the wall. Those 3 pieces are all Corey's cars. You got the dirt car, the Daytona car from last year, and then the Charlotte from this year. But I just like collecting different stuff. I was collecting football, switched from football back to racing, and I've just been going since. But so that being said, Mike and Josh have asked for me to show everyone my collection. So here we go. Alright, we've got Corey LaJoie's bumper off from the Charlotte car this year. Actually, this is the raced version, not the practice one. I'll show you guys the practice one here in a minute. Got a piece off from Chase Elliott's Xfinity car, piece off from Corey's ARC car from last year, Rusty Wallace piece, and then let's see, got a bunch of cars and stuff that I collect. I'm a big Haley Deegan fan. Let's see, got the Larson nameplate from Daytona 500. Love Ghostface. Got me a quarter panel off from Casey Kane's throwback to old Jeffrey Bodine. Let's see. Get a helmet I got signed in person by Chase. Helmet signed by Dale Jr. Another helmet signed in person by Jimmy and the King. And then, of course, Bristol Nose from the dirt race last year. Got the Daytona rear bumper signed by Corey himself. And as I said, I'm a big Chase Elliott fan, off from A-Shock. I'm a big fan of A-Shock. Love black and red cars, hence all the black and red. Also, got the flag. Chase Elliott's Hooters car, Night Owl. Got the two cars here. And then, of course, was a Dale Earnhardt fan. And then down here on the bottom, from here to the bottom are all race wins that I've been to, not counting the ones not released yet. Okay, and then a lot of y'all know, off from Dale Jr.'s Nationwide CLT car, got autographed Dale Sr., autographed Petty, and autographed Jimmy. And then down the hall, got a Haley Deegan Monster Pit Road banner. Dale Jr., Dale Sr., signed by Dale Sr. himself. Another Dale Sr., signed by Sr. himself. The Last Lap, and just a classic photo. Let's see what else we got. Over here, got a rear off from Chase Elliott's car. Got the quarter panel off from Chase's Daytona road course win a couple years ago. Got the matching car to go with it. Got old Monster Miles. And then all of Chase's wins, and then some. Let's see. Got a piece off from this year's Built Bar, I believe at Phoenix. And then down here, we got the practice bumper. Of course, gotta have the boys on TV. And then right here is just some of my favorite die casts. Got the last seen. And then Dale Jr.'s Daytona 500 wins. Well, one of them signed. I'm working on getting the other one signed. And then from New York, got to have a 911 car. But yeah, it's just massive collection. I've got a lot more pieces in storage, but until I forgot about the tire. Chase Elliott's championship win tire he started the race on. Left front one. Probably one of my prize pieces up until I'm going this week into Charlotte to pick up Haley Deegan's side, Haley Deegan rear bumper, and a Chase Elliott roof. And I'm working on hopefully getting another LaJoie piece. You guys can hit me up anytime you have any questions about sheet metal, anything like that. Holler at me, I'll help you out. I love photo matching, different pieces. It's a big hobby of mine. Of course, collecting is as well. But yeah, appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Bobby, thank you so much for being a Team SUPERSHOE member and for being the member of the month. We truly appreciate you, man, and we appreciate everybody that got to hang out with us today on the Shoe Show. It truly is an honor to get to hang out with you guys and get to know everybody. Man, I've formed so many great friendships and relationships over all this, and it has just been awesome. So other than that, guys, I hope you have a great another month. Next episode is going to be September 7th, episode number 10. And we're going to bringing you guys some exclusive content from Daytona, straight from Daytona International Speedway. I can't wait for that episode. And y'all don't even know. So until then, y'all stay safe. God bless. And go Corey LaJoie.